Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, there's a rowdy bunch in the room. What's up with this? Can someone just move forward? Let's fill up the front row. I can't speak to an empty row. Come on, guys. No takers? People from the back, please come up. خلفان. صباح الخير. هلا حبيبي. Are these lights okay? Yeah? Yeah, a little too bright. Okay, if we can adjust the lights and maybe just bring them down in brightness, that'd be great. I'm gonna start first in customary fashion by thanking lots of people, so lots of thank yous. Last year, those of you who stayed till the end will remember that we had one of our portfolio companies called Wrap Up that basically wrapped up last year's event, and they came up with the conclusion that I had said thank you 34 times. So I'm going to try and outperform that throughout the day, not just now. So first of all, I'd like to thank our sponsors without whom we couldn't put today on. We were just talking and with a few people backstage that most of the activity and the events that take place are entrepreneur focused, and people seem to forget about the investor community. So we're proud to be able to bring this to everyone. We did this 3 years ago. It was actually Yves. Where are you, Yves? Stick your hand up if you're in the crowd. Yves from Pictet, and Nina, who's now with Lakestar, but at the time was with Pictet. So this event was a very small event, 60 people, 80 people, not more than that. We basically threw it together in a few months, put together a couple of panels. It was very well received, and so we decided to make it an annual event. This is the third year. I want to thank Arqam. Can all the Arqam people just put your hands up? It makes it even more special to us at Beko to be supported by a local homegrown firm, because we are exactly that, and we appreciate your support tremendously. OMD, Eli Khouri, the big boss at OMD, isn't here today, so thank you in absentia. Housekeeping. Can anyone help us with the Wi-Fi code? There's no password. There you go. Thanks to OMD. So they're providing the Wi-Fi connection. We got a couple of new sponsors, partners in NASDAQ. Obviously, this makes a ton of sense because we hope to bring them a big pipeline of potential offerings down the line. So great to have NASDAQ on board. UA Exchange, who like Arqam are making fintech a major sector and a major focal point. So thank you all. Thank all of you for being here today, because without the sponsors, obviously there's no event, and without you, it's pretty futile. So I just want to make one observation. So this is obviously an investor conference. For the most part, almost 90-some% of you are from the investor community, so feel safe. The whole point of today is that you are inspired. We have an amazing lineup. You've got the programs on your desks in front of you. You can also Google BOOSTMENA.com to see it digitally on your phones. And we have a great day lined up. So be inspired, make new connections in the global community, let alone in the regional community, and strengthen existing relationships. All right, so I'm going to spend hopefully 5 minutes. I always say 5. I'm most likely going to overrun. I can see a timekeeper here giving me 7 minutes. So I'm going to try and set the scene here and keep it very, very high level. As a kid growing up in Dubai, something used to bother me tremendously about the way we do business. And I never knew what that was. I used to look around and think, what is our economy made of? What are we doing here in this part of the world? And it turns out that, for the most part, we're traders. And the problem with trading is it's a low-value economy. So as I grew up and became an entrepreneur, and now look at the world from an investor's perspective, it was clear to me that the real value is in the IP. The real value is in the brand. The real value is in production. And so the beautiful thing about technology is it's a level playing field. We can not just produce for ourselves, we can actually produce for the world, for a change. And so this is why, for me personally, tech is so important to us as a people and as a region. And last week, we signed an MOU in the presence of His Highness to be part of the founding members of Area 2071. I won't go into much detail. You can Google Area 2071. It's basically a cluster of innovation in the Emirates Towers, right under His Highness's eyes, to make sure that the centennial plan, which is when this country is 100 years old, is firmly in the hands of innovation. And why is this important to us? It's important to us because our vision from day one has been to make the region a better place, to improve the region through technology, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Guess what? When His Highness announces Area 2071 and says, we want to solve global problems, we want to go find problems, look for them, and bring them and figure out how to solve them, it actually emboldened us to upgrade our vision and say, you know what? We can make the region a better place, but we can actually contribute to global impact. And we're delighted to be able to dream in that light. So back to my personal journey. So I look at the UAE economy and I say, what's it made up of? And for the most part, we're taking care of ourselves as a local economy, for the most part. Obviously, we're big oil and gas producers, but that's a government sector. It's not a private sector. I'm talking about the private sector. And we come back to the fact that we're traders. And if we're going to build, maybe this is, so those of you that know me, I'm half German. Maybe this is like my German side kicking in, saying we have to produce, high-value goods and services for the world, which they do, and which is why they're such a powerful economy. I don't know what it is, but clearly there's something wrong with the picture. When 6 of the most valuable companies in the world, I don't know if these are the most valuable 6 companies in the world, but they're certainly 6 of the most valuable companies in the world, are all tech companies, yet our economies look like this. There's something wrong with that picture. There's a tremendous mismatch, and we need to fix that, and we will fix that. Whether we do anything about it or not just depends on how quickly we address this impending opportunity. So, what makes this even more awkward is that across the globe, I know there's someone from the Wall Street Journal here. Did you know that last month, on the 7th of October, Wall Street Europe stopped distributing the newspaper? No more print run. It is a digital business. 50% of their revenues come from digital, and a significant amount of their revenues, and the same thing with the Financial Times. So it's becoming mainstream. Another huge moment, we live, eat, and breathe this ecosystem and the global change that's taking place. But did you know that in 2017, this year, internet, that thing that's almost 20 years old, has displaced the granddaddy of all mediums, the television, in spend. More money is spent now on the internet, digitally, than there is on TV. We've just taken that, we've just taken the accolade from television, the granddaddy of all mediums. A lot of our conversations with the traditional world revolve around technology. And a lot of the traditional folks are embracing technology in their business to basically try and do things more efficiently. And that's fantastic. But the problem with that is if you do it really well, you just about stay relevant. Technology is not just reshaping existing industries and making them more efficient, but that's, in our mind, you just keeping up with the times. It's actually creating new business models. We've seen what's happening in energy. We've seen what's happening in the real estate business. We've seen Thomas Cook go bankrupt twice because They've tried to become a digital business, and it's a very, very different proposition. I keep saying to the folks from the non-digital world that to build a digital business, and I encourage you to ask this question to people throughout today, is an entirely different animal altogether. It's a different set of skills, a different mindset, it's a different outlook, it's a different work style, it's different metrics, it's everything. And those traditional businesses that have tried, there have been very few success stories. And by the way, I know a lot of you are from the banking community, so I'm delighted for those of you who are placing a big emphasis on fintech, but the banks aren't safe either. It's coming to everyone. The great news is that there's going to be a tremendous amount of M&A, because the old guard who have tried for quite a while to build digital businesses have eventually had to go out and buy something meaningful to stay relevant. And it's not, I don't mean it disrespectfully, it is just a fact. And we're extremely excited about what that brings, not just from strategic investors to spur M&A, but also from local, regional players who have either struggled to keep up or have missed the boat. The problem with M&A is that it's a thankless task, because damned if you do and damned if you don't. Walmart, for 10 years, everybody, including myself, and I'm sure a lot of you in this room have been lambasting them as having been asleep at the wheel and having missed the digital revolution. And they, there's probably a little bit of truth to that. They've tried everything. But then they go and they buy Jet.com for $3.3 billion, and they're laughed at by the same pundits who said they didn't do enough. Now it's become the most expensive acqui-hire in the world. So my advice is, since you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, you're better off doing something about it. Wall Street certainly loved the acquisition, even if it is too little, too late, or it's the most expensive acqui-hire. It's definitely worth acquiring. Just a quick note. So I'm talking a lot about the consumer, but on the enterprise side of things, it turns out that there is an incredibly high correlation between GDP per capitas in a country and digitization indices, which means the ability and propensity of companies to take up goods and services and software technologically. The beautiful thing is, in our region, we have incredibly high GDP per capitas across the region, and we already have very high digitization indices. In fact, if this source is to be believed, the UAE has a higher digitization index than Germany. I'm not going to debate whether that's true or not, but we loved it when we found it. You get the picture. So, and again, this is why we're really excited about what we're seeing in the market and what problems entrepreneurs are trying to solve and come to us for funding for. The enterprise and B2B category was silent. It was all about the consumer, and before that about e-commerce. It's now becoming a lot more about enterprise. And you'll hear from Nico. Are you in the room? Nico from Argentina. Hey, buddy. So what's great about these types of events and the fact that we travel a lot all over the world and we build amazing relationships with people like Nico is we get to compare notes. Nico is in Latin America. You're going to hear from him. I'm not going to steal his thunder. He's going to be talking with Yusuf about what they're seeing in LATAM. What's awesome is we feel we're just a couple of years behind him. So there's a nice arbitrage of information there, but let's keep that in this room. So back to the consumer. So this is the top 25 countries in the world as far as mobile smartphone penetration is concerned. 3 of the top 25 in the world are 3 biggest markets: UAE, Saudi, and Egypt. Number 7, number 10, and number 25. I think it says 24 there, but I actually think it's like 17. Doesn't matter. You get the picture. So we're connected. We have a massive market. We have just those 3 countries are 140 million people, of which approximately 70 million are connected with pretty fast. Salah al-khair. Tfaddal. Irkham in the house. with pretty impressive broadband connectivity, as you can see from running around the region. We've all got multiple phones, and we've all got 17G. Mohammed Ja'far, the founder, or at least one of the founders of Talabat, couldn't be here with us today, unfortunately, but I just want to say something about this story. So when we look at companies, unfortunately, we're way behind the rest of the world. Not unfortunately, we are. And the cool thing about that is we have to wait till these companies become big, because a small sample pool is not very useful. But when you have big businesses generating tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, that becomes an interesting sample pool. Well, guess what? It turns out that the businesses that we invest in, or that we look to invest in, have the highest revenue per user on planet Earth. Take that to the bank. Think about that for a moment. In Little MENA, so in Talabat's case, second highest basket size in the world after Germany, and this is, Morgan Stanley public IPO, red herring filing in June. They just went public. Delivery Hero did. And the highest frequency. So not only do we have the propensity to buy, we buy all the time. Now, why is this really, really important to us? Because 2 years ago, Dany Farha stood up on stage at STEP conference. It's a big entrepreneur-focused tech conference. And he basically made a ruckus. He caused a big stir in the ecosystem. He got up and he said, haram, we should never have let this company get sold to Delivery Hero. And his point was, whether you agree with it or not, is at $170 million exit, yeah, it's a lot of money, I understand, and Muhammad had his reasons for doing it. Let's not get into that. But if we, not we as Beko, if we collectively had backed him with $20, $30 million, the investor community at large, you folks in this room here, we would have captured a lot of that value ourselves. Do you know that in June, when Delivery Hero went public, approximately, from the red herring, from the IPO filing, 40% of the value of Delivery Hero's IPO came from MENA. 40%, and this is a company that operates in most countries in the world, in every continent in the world. They're in Russia, they're in Eastern Europe, they're in Central Europe, they're in Western Europe, they're in Latin America, they're everywhere. 40% of the value. So that's, several billion dollars. And again, I'm glad he was proved right, because a lot of people said that bullshit. Pardon my French, that's not a unicorn in the making. Well, guess what? In 2 years' time, it became an incredibly valuable jewel in the crown of Delivery Hero. And by the way, the same applies to these other companies. You can prod some of them, and later on they'll be in the room, they'll be on stage. So bring it home. What are we doing? We are investing in companies that are solving, through technology, enterprise, local problems, but they can export those, and it's local innovation. It's not copying some other model. And I know that the Bayzat guys are in the house. I haven't seen them. Hands up, Talal, where are you? Hey. We're investing in companies based here in the Middle East. This one is in Beirut, that are basically serving a global audience, people who are using the product and are addicted to the product, an incredibly high active proportion of users, and are planning to roll out an enterprise product across the globe. This is identity and password management. And where are the schedule guys? There you are, front row. I like the confidence. So this is a company that's 2 years old. My favorite explanation about this company is that it's a UAE company, and it's truly UAE, because one of the founders was from Abu Dhabi and one from Dubai. That's where they're based. And they built this business into, this is a company out of the UAE, founded out of the UAE, that's serving a global audience. They have 14,000 customers using their services. They serve the beauty segment, salons, spas, etc., to give them technology to run their businesses, scheduling, booking software, accounting packages, blah, blah, blah. And it's all very simple, drag and drop, and so on and so forth. This is a company where 33% of their customer base, that's 3,500, if I'm doing the math right, 4,000 in the United States of America. How cool is that we have a company based in the UAE that's not even 2 years old that's serving guys in the US where we thought we could never do that. We come back to Area 2071. It can be done. And they've processed $1.5 billion year to date of bookings through their system. I mean, how? Round of applause, guys, seriously. So I'm going to shut up now and just, those of you that haven't joined the revolution, I'm going to ask you to hopefully, again, be inspired, make new relationships, solidify existing ones. I'm going to hand it over to David Rowan.